I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
Colby and Chip.
Metallica! Sanitarium. This is like a big Metallica song.
This one I've seen on the requests.
Yeah, when I was first getting into Metallica, people were talking about Sanitarium, but I had one on replay. Plus, I didn't have the Puppets record.
Have you heard this one?
Yeah, I've heard this one. I didn't have the Puppets record. What I had was one because K-Rock was still playing that song. Even though at the time it was like 20, 30 years old.
Okay.
K-Rock was still playing one.
I want you to take this and write down what score you think I'm going to give it.
Oh.
Don't let me see.
Okay, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
And then we'll see how well you know me. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear the sound of a 7 or sound of something.
Okay.
Okay, did you flip it over?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be able to not peek.
So anyway, Sanitarium. That's what everybody was talking about. I finally got around to it like a year or two after I started listening to Metallica.
Oh, okay.
But it took me a long time because I was just replaying one over and over and over again. But then we were going to a show where Metallica...
I've heard Ghost Love Score so many times.
Yeah. We were going to a show where Metallica was playing and my guy Nelson was like, yo, you gotta listen to it now because all this stuff's going to be on the set list. So I got exposed to a bunch of Metallica and Sanitarium.
Okay.
That's how I ended up with it. But anyway, Sanitarium, welcome home. Let's do it.
Go.
Sanitarium.
Yeah. Are they talking about like the hospital, like?
Yeah, it's a mental institution. Yeah,
mental institution.
It's from the Master of Puppets record, so it's kind of like I think it's going along with the same theme of like being put in situations against your will. You know what I mean?
I don't like that.
So I think it's going with that same.
When they explained it, sounds awful.
Explain what?
Welcome to where time stands still. No one leaves and no one will. Moon is full, never seems to change. Which, working in the medical field, man, when the moon was full, it was different.
Well, that's where you get the term. That's where you get the term lunatic. You know, lunar. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so it's you're just in a perpetual state of madness, basically.
Oh,
is the
man.
idea.
Never seems to change.
I was in a mental institution for about 6 months, and I never really I could never really tell the difference. But then again, I wasn't really checking, hey, is the moon full? I mean, you'd hear jokes and stuff like that, but I mean, I wasn't really there to verify.
Alzheimer patients, they're not checking to see if the moon is full. It's just different.
Is it?
It absolutely is.
So I just took it as that, like the whole lunacy thing, you know, like with the moon, where people are really affected by.
I think some people are more affected by it than other people. I don't think everybody is. You know.
Okay. No way.
What happened?
You know, Rose, tomorrow's her mother's birthday.
You work with.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Zoe's
it's funny.
birthday?
It's Zoe's birthday tomorrow.
Well, by the time this is coming out, it's Zoe's birthday today.
Right.
The 21st. That's kind of a cute time to have a baby.
Yeah.
First day of spring.
Well,
ice cream shop open.
Today's the 20th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, time flies. Anyway, yeah. So it's about being in the institution. Of course, the old school institutions were terrible.
Yeah.
They were really horrible.
Yeah.
You know, I saw some of this. You know, like keep him tied, it makes him well.
Oh, stop! Oh my God, I can't imagine.
So like nobody tied me up, but you know, I was in there was the adult wing, and then there was like the teenager wing, and I was like 17, 18, so I was kind of in between both. Mm-hmm. But they found out pretty quickly that I wasn't gonna work out in the kids wing, because they said something and I said something like that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then I started arguing with one of I forgot what they called them, and of course you know how I am with arguments. So they basically said, just go into the quiet room, and the quiet room was basically like this padded place, and you just stay there. And it just so happened in the court of law that my mother was coming to visit me and check on me. And of course we were at each other's throats at the time, and so an outsider can think, oh, well, they're at each other's throats, so she's gonna understand. Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't understand the dynamics of me and my mom. So as soon as my mom found out I was there, and as soon as she was like, how long have you been in here? And I was like, I don't know, because I had lost track of time.
Right.
Like, you put my child in solitary confinement. Oh, what a go on! Give me the name of your manager. Like, she went off on them. And
I didn't like that either.
I don't think that they were, because at the time, as I was being admitted, we were going back and forth.
Right.
I hate you, da-da-da-da.
Right.
She's like, maybe you can learn from them. You know, like, we were like yelling at each other back and forth. So all they knew is, oh, they're at each other's throats, you know?
She's going to be fine with this.
So she's wrong. Wrong answer. And that's when they decided I wasn't going to be a good idea on the
teens,
the young adult wing. They just put me up on the with the adults and stuff, which was supposed to be some big terrible situation, because you had supposedly criminally insane people on there and all that, and I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about being a tough guy. I was
Remember what you were arguing?
I was just in a state of mind where I literally did not care whether I lived or died.
Oh gosh.
Well, I did care, and I wanted to die. Right. So telling me like, oh, you're gonna go up there with a criminally insane, like, that doesn't affect me at all. You know what I mean? It would affect me now. I'd be like, well, shoot, I don't want to be in that situation about a bunch of criminally insane people.
Oh, really?
Of course not. You don't want to be in that situation, because then if you...
Babe, you're so okay with everything.
Well, no, because then, I mean, what are you going to do with a criminally insane person? They're going to put you in a situation where you have to get physical, and then...
They're gonna put you in it, yeah.
And then, you know, there's more, I mean, that's
Honey,
obviously...
just the way that you say things...
That's obviously is something to be avoided. But at the time, I was like, oh, I want to kill myself anyway.
Situation where you're gonna, just the way you word stuff is like...
What do you mean?
See, I would have just said, that sounds really scary. I don't want to be in that situation. But
well, yeah, I didn't want to...
Yeah.
Now I don't want to be in that situation.
Yes, but you're like, they'll put you in a situation, and I don't know, just the way you word stuff.
Well, yeah, where you have to get physical. Even if you're scared, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get physical. Like somebody comes after you, you're not going to.
Yeah, but it didn't sound like an emotional thing. Like, I'm afraid. It just sounded like, hey, flip that over, that paper.
That's. Did you see it? Did you see the number?
I don't know. I saw some. Did you put 8? I already have my number in my head anyway. It doesn't matter what you put.
We'll talk about it later. Yeah, so, you know, it was one of those situations where, you know... But yeah, I ended up on the adult wing, and I was fine. I mean, I only had 2 incidents up there the entire 6 months, which is really good compared to everybody else.
It's still very difficult for me to picture you in that situation.
But I was the smallest one there. I was the youngest one there, so people were kind of like... You know, they're kind of sweet on me. Like, oh, there's this kid.
Oh, yeah,
you know
that's true.
Plus, they were like, oh, what'd you do to end up here? And they were like, whoa.
Poor kid.
Yeah, well, you're true cult. You were really trying to die. Okay. You know, like, that's how it worked. And then you had other people like, man, you ain't really trying to die.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, every subculture has their little stupid, you know, whatever. But, yeah, there was only one time where there was this one guy, he had come from, pretty sure he had come from, forgot where he was, but he was like genuinely, he believed that people were after him, and so like I was the third room that he was in, and you know how like I sleep with my leg like moves around and around and around and around and around, so he'd be like he was trying really hard. He was like, please stop doing that, da 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 da, and like the whole night he kept talking to me, and I'm like, yo, like I'm trying to get to sleep. He's like, so am I, but there's people here, and da 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 da, yeah. Yeah, so that was a situation where it was like, it was pretty spooky, because the guy was like, you could see him like fighting himself. And that, there were other people that were like just totally sold out to being, you know, insane or stereotypical. I don't even know. Half of it I don't really feel like it was even, I don't know how to explain it, but there were some people there that were like really like meant like that guy that I was bunking with at the time or whatever, like he really, I could tell he was really fighting it and trying not to be whatever, and then he, you know, and he had an episode, and then he, you know, he's like, and then the orderlies came in and took him out, and you know, it's like from a movie,
Yikes.
like jammed him up. And,
Oh, yikes.
but I felt bad for the guy, but at the same time, it was a pretty tense situation, you know. So, and then there was another guy who, my opinion was that he was under the influence of some pretty dark intelligences, like really. And me and him were, you know, because he would sit down, everybody would clear the room, like that's the type of guy he was.
Oh, wow.
And that gave me flashbacks, because there was a member of my family who was like that, and you know, whatever. So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So then me and him got into, but you know, aside from that, being on the adult wing, like it was a breeze. I mean, there was nothing. They were trying to make it sound like jail and you'll die and all this other stuff. In reality, it was like I got up there and everybody's like, oh, this little kid, and he's black and he's young, and you know, I had my guitar, and they'd sit down and show me some chords or whatever, and you know, I was pretty well liked over there. Like there was no problems. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they were trying to make it sound
I see
like,
what you're saying.
oh, if you go up to the adult wing, there's a
real bad for you.
yeah, and it wasn't like that at all for me. Made some pretty good friends there. I did. One of them in particular. Shout out to the big homie.
Really?
Yeah. That was my guy. And
You still talk to him?
Well, I found him on. He was one of those guys that was, his body worked against him, and you could tell he wasn't going to get to 55.
Oh.
He was one of those people, and he had some heart condition that literally could have took him out like at any time, and that was like feeding into his.
Yeah.
Because he got picked up. He was walking around with a shotgun in Walmart, but he was doing it on purpose because he wanted to be in a medical facility where they could always check on him. See what I'm saying? So because he was in the hospital, they would always check on his heart condition and yada 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 because he couldn't function outside with that knowledge. So I don't even know if he's alive, but
wow, okay.
Yeah. He was my first like gay friend. Like he was that was my guy. Shout out to the big homie. Makes sense. Yeah. He and I got really, really close, and he kind of looked out for me and stuff. And I'm pretty sure he's the one that got that guy to change rooms from me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the doctor on call came in and asked me a bunch of questions, was like da 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 da, and of course you know me, I was straight from New York. I was like, nah, I'm good, he's fine, da 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 da, and then. And I saw Ed take the guy aside, the lead doctor aside, and then the next day the guy he actually got sent off to. There's one that deals specifically with the military, and he actually got sent off over there.
Oh wow!
So they just completely moved the guy. So yeah, but that's my that was my guy. He like from day one he was, and he was a miserable guy too, but he was nice to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was a miserable dude, and he was miserable with me at the beginning. I'm like, yo, man, like, just relax, lighten up. We're the funny farm, like, relax. And, like, I got him to laugh and stuff, so then, we started.
So it was just at night he was weird?
Who? My friend, my buddy?
Oh, you were talking about your buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the guy that got moved.
Well, yeah. Well, I had seen the other guy, and he was basically okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people can't deal with, like, quiet. Like, when stuff gets real quiet, that's when people start, flaring up and whatever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because, you're left with your thoughts or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that I wouldn't risk that. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Like, can you imagine, like, really being convinced that people are after you and really, because when you watch a movie, it's like you're like temporarily terrified in a movie, but you also know that it's not real. So you're able to kind of like fade. You function in both worlds. But what if you didn't know that it was not real?
No, I know. I see. Remember when we would we'd always talk to these different people, and like you'd meet these people that like they had this conspiracy theory that the government was after them.
Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, it doesn't make any sense. Like there's not to be mean, but there's nothing important about your life that the government cares about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have anything that they want.
Yeah.
But
it's madness.
They were just convinced, and they have all of these things that they put so much time into it, and it was like plaguing their mind and terrorizing them. Like I remember sitting on the steps with this girl, and she was like, "Stop it!" She's like, "Look, and I was like, "What?" She's like, "Right across the street." She's like. And then there was like these stone sculptures.
Yeah.
And she
I
was
was
saying,
there, right?
Yeah, you were there on that one. She was saying
that was a sad one.
The stone sculptures had cameras, and those cameras were watching her.
Yeah.
She's like, I can never get away from it. And like that paranoia, that feeling of never being able to get away and escape people watching you.
Who was that?
She was a neighbor of the girl we were helping.
Right. And that's why the cops. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's when the cops got involved and everything, and she was convinced that the freaking. And of course, I'm like, I promise you, the FBI is not scoping out your house.
I know, but it's not funny. It's not funny that they feel that way.
No, well, that's
because
what I'm saying.
Is, like, I'm a conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's different things that I'm like, wait a minute. But I never felt like that the government. I never thought I had anything of interest in my life that the government would be interested in watching me.
It was just the irony of like, no, nobody's. I know for 100,000% fact.
I know.
The FBI and the CIA are not looking at you. I promise.
Right.
But I mean, what could I say to her? hey,
Right.
you know what I mean?
There's nothing you could say that
There's
would
nothing I
convince
could have
her.
said, yeah. There's nothing I said about the other guy, too. But the other guy...
Even if somebody from the FBI showed up and showed the badge and said, "We're not watching you," she'd be, "They're lying."
That would be the proof.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like when you're
There's
when
nothing.
you're when you have like these diagnosable diseases, like if you're truly a paranoid person, like actual paranoid schizophrenic, like that's one of the challenges. They don't even try to disprove your delusions. They just try to talk you through them, because any proof that's definitive that is against that idea actually becomes proof that the idea is true. So you say, okay, this is Joe Schmo from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I just want to let you know that we're not looking at you. That would be her definitive proof that he was looking at her. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a really tough...
Yeah, exactly.
But most of the people up there with me at the time, most of it was more depressed and stuff like that. We didn't have a lot of those guys. We had that one guy that was bunking with me, and then we had the other demon-possessed guy, and... they basically had bounced that guy. Actually, when I was driving, did I show you him one time when I was driving to Augusta that time? And I said, didn't I point him out to you because he was walking?
Yeah, you did point somebody out.
There was an old guy who was walking, and he looked scary as hell, like exactly what you would think. I'm like, yo, that guy right there, like he. And they sent him to the military. It didn't do anything for him. Like he was just out. Obviously, you know, it was pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
That's sad.
Yeah, it was, you know, at the time I didn't have enough compassion to feel bad for him, because I was just looking at it from my own issues, which is here's somebody that is dominating an entire room, you know, and that really triggered me, because I can't stand that. Like now an entire room gets cleared because you sat down. Like, who the hell are you? You know, like so I didn't have the presence of mind to feel bad for the guy.
Interesting.
You know, but yeah. So this is also about like a revolt.
Yeah, like you're gonna fight again.
Well, we had a little something like that, but it was really childish. That's the thing, like your mind is, I was so hopped up on all these different drugs, and then you know, some you know, like you said in other videos where my doctor, you know, like she changed them immediately because they were affecting. So like we were all so hopped up on these meds and such. I think they had like a hard stop 10 o'clock curfew or something like that.
Yeah.
And like the rules were you couldn't be in your unassigned room or whatever, and I'd be hanging out in, you know, in Ed's room and all. I would be chilling, and then they'd come and they'd say, you know, and then one time Ed decided he was gonna hide in my closet. And it was kind of fun. It's like, Eddie's gonna come out of the closet, because you know he's... but we would do little things like that, little FU things to make them angry. And there's really nothing they could do to us. I mean, what were you gonna do? Like, you know what I'm saying? But you know, it was like really childish at the time, because it's like, we're supposed to be, it's curfew, but look at us, we're in each other's rooms.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's crazy because they had women on our floor too, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, and you know, like, yeah, it's pretty crazy situations were going down. Of course, me with my complete vacuity at the time, I was like, hey, yeah, sure, everybody come over, it's a big party, and it was like, you know, it was like, hey, how come you're the only one here? I didn't process it all until like literally years later, and I'm like, you know what? I bet you anything she was trying to, you know, whatever. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy situation. Well, honey, she was like in her 30s, and I was like 17, 18 years old. So we were just all chilling. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, you know. Of course, now I realize that it has nothing to do with attraction. It's like if you're 35, you want to feel like you're still, you know, hey, the 17-year-old, you know, is interested in me, blah, blah, blah.
No, I think that's disgusting.
Say again?
I think that's girl. I'm not like that at all.
Well, yeah, but I mean, she was, you know.
No.
So that was
I can't process that.
That was, yeah.
Disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd always...
Because it could be your kid, it's just...
She'd always used to tell me, oh, you're so wise beyond your years, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like...
Well, that did happen. You weren't like a typical 17-year-old.
No, I wasn't.
So, it wasn't, I'm sure, like... I still can't.
She didn't look like she was 35. So, you know.
Well, there you have it.
But at the time, I was just like so like jacked up that I didn't even see, you know, whatever. You know,
Is that the one that showed up with the sweatshirt?
Nope. That was somebody else.
It was another girl.
Yeah.
What happened? She was cold. You let her use her sweatshirt.
Yeah, she's cold. She's
and
like,
she misread that, right?
She's like, oh, Vin. I was like, oh, no doubt, I got a sweatshirt here.
Yeah.
You know how I am. I'm good.
I know.
So, yeah.
I know.
So I left the hospital, and then she found out where I lived to give me back the sweatshirt. So.
Yeah. I don't know how you could miss what was going on there.
Well, the thing is, I had a girlfriend in New York.
That doesn't mean anything to
Listen,
anybody.
I had a girlfriend in New York, and I'd always talk about, like, that would be the first thing you'd hear about was my girlfriend
that just
this, my
makes
girlfriend
girls
that.
want to do it more.
Even in group, it was my girlfriend this, my girlfriend that. So.
Wow, if he likes her that much, he's willing to go with me. That means I must be the shit.
Well, I wasn't.
Well, she didn't know that. You gave the sweatshirt,
it wasn't in my mind to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was just so focused on that and counting down the days, and then, you know, my social worker was like, "Hey, we can get you an apartment." So I'm like, "Yo."
Yeah.
I was calling homegirl like, "Yo, we're gonna get an apartment. Da da da. We're gonna be straight." You know?
Yeah.
I'm what? You're about to say that I was something.
Well, you're like that. You don't realize that how that stuff's gonna get read. Didn't that happen to you once in a work situation too?
Yeah.
Right. So these situations, you always think that people have the same motives as you do. You're just asking somebody to hold your whatever, or you know, whatever. It's not like that.
Well, the thing is, I've been in situations where people have just genuinely been cold. They take the hoodie and then they give it back, no problem. I've been in those situations. So you read into those situations some other motive. When to me, it's like, if somebody's cold, they're cold. Like, if it's like 95 degrees outside and they're like, oh my God, I'm shivering, then I'd be like, But.
Oh, you'd second guess it.
But, you know, it was like, you know, 40 degrees out, whatever it was. So I understand why you would want a hoodie. I just didn't understand why all the other stuff was following when you went to drop it off. You know what I mean? So it was a very interesting time. Like, that whole period of my life was extremely.
Did she say, "I'm cold, can I use your sweatshirt"?
I mean,
or did you see her shivering and you let her use it?
It happened over a decade ago, babe. I mean, I don't remember.
You have a good memory on stuff.
But I'm pretty sure she asked me for it. So.
Why didn't she ask the guy beside you?
I don't remember the guy beside me. I think I was the only one with a hoodie at the time.
Were you wearing it?
Not sure. Yeah, I was wearing it. I took it out and gave it to her.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you're automatically, because your mind is so Freudian, you're automatically going to go there. But that's.
Well, I would have been right in that situation. And the other one. And the other one.
No, I don't think you're right in most of those situations. You're convinced that every woman on the planet wants me.
That's not true. I'm not convinced of that.
That's only you. You're the woman on the planet.
No, I don't think I'm the only one that wants you though.
There's about 3 or 4
also.
of them. But you just turn stuff into stuff that isn't there. You know, and I'm glad you think that way of me. I'm glad you think I'm desirable. But yeah, that's the long and the short of our fighting back in the institution. It was more like, we'll be in this room, and one time Ed hid under one of the beds, and that was hilarious because the orderly had to like go down there and say, "Get out!"
Get out.
And you know, they tried to grab him, they rolled him this side, and half of his body, he had a stroke, so half of his body was done anyway.
Oh, really?
So awkward, and then they would yank him up, and he'd be like, "Yeah," he'd scream, and and then everybody would come out their doors to look, and they'd be like, "Get inside!"
Yeah, I would not want that job.
Yeah, and you know, I'd be like, "You guys are terrible. You guys are horrible. We have rights." But it was all bull. I didn't care, you know, because Ed was like laughing. You know, he'd be smiling at me, and I'm like, "You guys, I'm gonna report this." You know, and they were actually,
but you know what?
They were really scared of that though. The whole Patient's Bill of Rights thing, that was really big back in the day.
Yeah.
And they were really, you know.
You could lose your job, you can get fined.
Oh yeah. So there you go.
But you're doing the best you can with what you got. It's just.
Yeah, but we never really had any like. But
I kind of think that every like there's always that little bit of rebellion that pops up in, as kids, we used to do that to my mom.
Yeah.
We just mess with her.
Well, it was sort of like a paternal relationship with the orderlies. Like they didn't really engage us as if we were their equals. You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
Like, they never really engaged us that way.
There was
so
something
there was
in here
that
that said something like that, like,
they think our heads are in their hands. Violent use brings violent plans.
No, it was basically just saying that it seemed like that they were, like they had been categorized.
Yeah,
just labeled mentally deranged.
Yeah.
That's it.
When you have a mental illness, and that's why I talk a lot about that experience, because I want to bring it out to the forefront and say, hey, I battled mental illness. But when you have a mental illness, people just immediately, everything you say is invalidated, and everything you say gets attributed to your mental illness. So if you're mad, it's like, oh, you're having episodes. It's like, no, you're not having an episode. People are allowed to be angry. or like, if you're coming and being, acting in this crazy domineering fashion, then of course I'm going to react. But everything that you do gets attributed to your mental illness, like immediately,
I think I used to do that with people. You were the first person that kind of made me say, wait a minute, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's not true that just because somebody has a mental illness that everything is a symptom of that. Like, even with depression. Like, if somebody dies and the person is sad, that's not because they have depression.
Right.
It's because there's a circumstance that would make any human being sad.
Yeah.
But they immediately just, like, discount what you have to say or whatever you feel as being your issue. Like, everything gets dumped into that.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, that's not the reason, but that's how they treat you. Now, I will say, if this was an old school sanitarium, if I had an old school, mental, hospital experience, then there might have been some violent, jihad. Because from what I've read, they treated those people terribly.
Yeah.
And there was no out. It was like worse than a prison sentence. You know what I'm saying? So I think if I would have had that type of experience, then it wouldn't have been funny. Like, people really would have been.
Because the more you're in that situation, the more you're going to have an outburst, because you can't live like that. That's not humane.
People aren't designed.
So then you end up having more outbursts, which makes you look more like you should be. That it just
right. It's a crazy cycle. It's like, oh, look at this. He
is crazy.
Well, yeah.
You've been treating him like an animal the whole freaking time.
Seduct. Right. Yeah. So what the hell do you think the guy is going to do? He's still a human being at the end of the day. But now, every reaction that you had is and the more you don't conform, then you get, the straitjacket and the electroshock.
Oh no! Stop!
All that stuff. So I think those types of institutions, definitely there must have been some, natives getting restless. We're about to do some harm to some people.
Yeah.
But I can say, as far as a grade goes, I felt like there were some jerks and some people where obviously the power was obviously, to their head. But for the most part, I really felt like it was populated by a bunch of people who were really trying to help and trying to do their best and were, weren't perfect. But I'm grateful for all the orderlies and the nurses and the doctors. I'm grateful for all of them because they guided me through a pretty difficult time in my life and gave me some categories to put certain ideas and it's been very helpful. And there were other things that were not very helpful, but that's it's human beings. What are you gonna do? So shout out to all the orderlies out there and doctors and stuff in the mental health field. Appreciate y'all. I think that whole subculture is very unthanked.
Yeah.
I think that I think even like if so-and-so's an orderly on a psych ward, like I think people either don't want to talk about it or it's like this novelty. Ooh, like tell me what happened.
Oh, yeah. Crazy story.
And so like, they don't really get to talk about like how difficult it is because it's not an easy job.
It's like the working with Alzheimer's patients. That's another.
That's a real thankless job.
At least with the mental hospital, you could think, well, some of these people, you got better, you got out and stuff like that. Yeah. So you can say, oh, okay, you can pat yourself on the back. With an Alzheimer's patient, they're like that. Right. And then the only thing that they get the escape is when they die, and so it's just, It's hard,
Yeah.
a hard job, and they don't get paid very well at all.
Nope. Neither
I
did
always used to
ours.
say, like, when I was working as a CNA, I was like, I cannot believe, like, I don't know what it is now, but, like, the guy that picks up the trash at the end of my driveway gets paid more than I do, and I'm dealing with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that was absolutely insane. It shouldn't be like that.
So shout out to all the nurses, doctors, orderlies, everybody CNAs, everybody that's in that
The nurses got all the credit
situation.
for everything that was done. You know, the family members coming and saying, oh, thank the nurse, ah. And you're like, are you serious? She sat behind the desk the whole time. I did it.
What do you give the song?
Well, I saw your paper, babe. You flipped it over like 18 million times. You're gonna have to do that on another one. Because now you led the witness. Because I had a 10, and then I switched to a 9. Then I saw your paper at a 9.3, and I'm like, maybe I would have landed at a 9.3, or maybe you led the witness. I should have
Once
just taken
again,
it
I'm
from
to
you.
blame.
Well, yeah, you flipped it over. I said
It's
leave
a
it flipped over
nine.
because I'm gonna look at it.
It's a 9 for me.
I really liked it though. Like,
So what is it?
I don't know. You confused me.
Okay, so Sori will give her vote later.
No, I'm just gonna go with a 9.
Okay.
Or I'll go for a 9.3 in honor of your paper.
I was right. 9.3. And then Al.
Sorry, Al.
Gone.